bits and pieces scattered on the floor. Glue stuck to fingers, can't take no more. Searching for quiet, the world's too loud. Need a space where I ain't part of the crowd. Paintbrush trembles, can't keep it straight. Fumbling parts while the clock runs late. Dreaming of battleships, castles and skies, but I can't focus with all these cries. Give me a room where the noise don't go, where the door shuts tight and the thoughts can flow. Just me and my models under dim lit glow. A place of my own where the time moves slow. Hands are steady when the world's at bay. Tiny details come alive in the clay, but the outside's knocking, pounding the wall. I can't create when they're screaming down the hall. I don't need much, just a desk and a light, a little calm to build the night. Tanks and towers taking shape in my mind, but the peace I need is so hard to find. Give me a room where the noise don't go, where the door shuts tight and the thoughts can flow. Just me and my models under dim lit glow. A place of my own where the time moves slow.
Stick your side up, ain't sticking at all. Corners keep curling, makes me wanna brawl. Press it down hard and pops back in my face. Decal rebellion all over the place. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Fighting these stickers is making me sick. Smooth it real slow or slap it on quick. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Peeling back paper with all my might. Static clings wrong, nothing feels right. Tried to be patient, but I'm losing my cool. Each stubborn stick is breaking all the rules. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Fighting these stickers is making me sick. Smooth it real slow, slap it on quick. Decals won't lay down, it just won't stick. Sliding, man, I just don't know. Tried soapy water, still a crooked disgrace. These little monsters laughing in my face. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Fighting these stickers is making me sick. Smooth it real slow or slap it on quick. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Decals won't lay down, it just won't stick.
bits and pieces scattered on the floor. Glue stuck to fingers, can't take no more. Searching for quiet, the world's too loud. Need a space where I ain't part of the crowd. Paintbrush trembles, can't keep it straight. Fumble in parts while the clock runs late. Dreaming of battleships, castles and skies, but I can't focus with all these cries. Give me a room where the noise don't go, where the door shuts tight and the thoughts can flow. Just me and my models under dim lit glow, a place of my own where the time moves slow. Hands are steady when the world's at bay. Tiny details come alive in the clay, but the outside's knocking, pounding the wall. I can't create when they're screaming down the hall. I don't need much, just a desk and a light, a little calm to build the night. Tanks and towers taking shape in my mind, but the peace I need is so hard to find. Give me a room where the noise don't go, where the door shuts tight and the thoughts can flow. Just me and my models under dim lit glow, a place of my own where the time moves slow.
Stick your side up, ain't sticking at all. Corners keep curling, makes me wanna brawl. Press it down hard, it pops back in my face. Decal rebellion all over the place. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Fighting these stickers is making me sick. Smooth it real slow or slap it on quick. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Peeling back paper with all my might. Static clings wrong, nothing feels right. Tried to be patient, but I'm losing my cool. Each stubborn stick is breaking all the rules. Decals won't lay down, it just won't stick. Fighting these stickers is making me sick. Smooth it real slow, slap it on quick. Decals won't lay down, it just won't stick. Edge of your heat, but the bubbles still show. Fingers keep sliding, man, I just don't know. Tried soapy water, still a crooked disgrace. These little monsters laughing in my face. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Fighting these stickers is making me sick. Smooth it real slow, slap it on quick. Decals won't lay down, it just won't stick. Decals won't lay down, it just won't stick.
Okay. And turn the camera on. All right. Move this down one. And there we go. All right. Now let me turn the volume down here. There's run about a 16-second delay. All right. Well, good evening, Glue Troopers. Max and Max's Models here. And thanks for coming out and joining us this evening. So, I thought today we might kick off starting talking about some adventures in decaling, and then we'll go wherever Steve's got some stuff to tell us. about what's going on over in the
Max.
modeling world. Yeah.
Tom Fox says, Indiana Jones, decals. Why did it have to be decals?
It had to be snakes. So, for starters, we thanks everybody coming in. Let's get a voice check in. Steve, give me a count.
Account.
And Ken,
Account.
they're easily amused. Instead of using my little communicator, my wife got me this little Bluetooth speaker that I've been having in the Tarbis with me, and I can play YouTube music through my phone. And man, it's for something the size of a soup can. It's amazing. So, and why is the camera out of focus again? It's been doing that a lot lately.
Maybe the camera is going on strike.
Well, I don't know what the problem with that thing is. It's let me turn it off, turn it back on.
Is the autofocus thing clean?
Well, let me clean it real quick and see. Pardon me, technical difficulties. Yeah, it looks clean. Set it back up there, turn it back on. Ah, there we go.
Still
All
dark?
right.
You're still fuzzy.
What?
Yeah. Still fuzzy.
Well,
Hey,
last
No,
night,
no. You guys will see it in about 15 seconds. After I cleaned it, it cleared up. But that should not be happening. It's supposed to be a good camera. So, anywho.
Glad it's your camera. I laughed out loud for a second. I thought it was my eyes.
Okay.
Camera
Gotcha
stops.
said camera had cost there.
Yeah. Can you guys hear him okay? I guess I should switch glasses since I'm mostly on the computer.
Max is blurry.
Now you're focused.
Max is blurry, and I've not started drinking yet.
But the night is young. So, where to get started? Okay. I had myself some genuine adventures here in decaling recently, which I talked about briefly on the regular videos. So I thought we would start off with a wonderful discussion about decals. And these are the JetBlue decals that I bought for my little Airbus, and also the TSDS decals I bought for the C-57D interior. And
Max,
what?
Mike Frady says, "Why does Steve and Ken sound like they're talking inside of a mattress?"
Because we're in our bedrooms.
Audio is low.
The audio's low. Okay, let me put this on.
That's what Lance said.
All right. Well, this
really
thing has a lot more bass than the. Let me put it up a little closer to the. All right, let's try that again. Well, first off, Ken has a cold, so that's why he sounds like they got that deep throaty voice right now. Please don't tell him what you called it. Oh
voice.
God, he just had to try to stop him, Steve.
It's his Barry White impression.
But
Hey, y'all just can't handle it. That's your problem.
God. Yeah, this thing has got some serious throat to it. Yeah, I don't know if it'll let me adjust the treble. Yeah, well, Ken's just sounds that way because he's sick. So
I'm not sick anymore.
yeah, you stay with that theory.
I'm recovering.
So this decal sheet of this JetBlue A320 that you put up, is that a decal for the entire top of the wing?
For part of it, not the entire. There's a two-tone wing on an Airbus because part of it's aluminum, part of it is composite. And a lot of airliners are that way. And let me give you a little bit better look at that. Let's see. There. Now we can. This is a. Now here's the problem with the JetBlue decal. Actually, it's just about as grainy as the other one. It's a really nice set of decals, but the blue and the light and dark blue stripes that you see. JetBlue airplanes, the bellies are blue, okay, and then they have a light blue cheat line around them. So what happens is they want you to you can use the decals, but you have to paint. You have to match paint, and then paint the belly inside that area. That brings up how I want to handle this, which is one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. And I have basically two options. One, go ahead and apply the decals. Once they set and are hard, then and clear coated, then I can go in probably with a brush and paint the rest of the fuselage. I could airbrush it, but that means masking off a decal, and there's a very good chance I'd wind up lifting the decal up with it. At least if I used any kind of adhesive. And if I don't use some sort of tape or something, there's a good chance you might get a little overspray, which would be a nightmare to clean up. So my inclination is to trim out the decal, put it on the model, and put pencil marks where everything's got to be, then remove the decal, draw the line, paint just outside the line because it does give you some overlap area, and go ahead and mask it off and then spray paint it, then put the decal on over that, and there should be a little bit of overlap. That's kind of what I'm planning to do. If I did put the decal on first, then I'd kind of be committed to brush painting, because it would really be tricky to airbrush it without tape and not have a mistake somewhere. Man's got to know his limitations. So that's the big trick there. I'm also probably going to put a blue trim around the outside, the front, top, and rear of the fin, because if these tail decals are like a lot of them, they always leave a little bit of gap, even if you gap seal them or try to, you saw this out a lot of times. They leave a little bit of a gap around the front of the back where they don't quite seal up. It's actually kind of hard to use a decal on a full fin, which brings up something else we're going to be talking about later in that regard. But that is...
How much was this decal sheet?
Oh, like $18 or something, I think.
Oh, not that bad.
No. In fact, I also bought a decal sheet today for the Colonel's F4, because where it says Marines on the other side is all messed up. And even when I bought a replacement sheet, turned out they were old and cracked and fell apart. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But the decal sheet looks fairly complete. It's got all the stuff that the Airbus has. The little red up the upper left corner, you see these red squares with white inside them. Those are panels for like the static ports and stuff. They have do not wash, do not bend. If there's a dent in one of them, you can't fly. A lot of stuff like that. So they've got most of the Airbus markings, the windows, and all that stuff. So it's pretty complete. But the model I won't need windows for, because it has I painted over the windshield, but it has it has holes where the windows go. So I may go ahead and put those over them just to see if it'll cover up the holes. I haven't looked to see if this is all one piece, or if they have to be trimmed out completely, or if they are individual decals, which we're going to be talking about that in a minute also. But the decal sheet.
Stuart Gregory says composite, as in plastic.
Carbon fiber.
Plastic airplane.
Yeah, mostly carbon fiber.
Okay, so you used to fly a real plastic airplane?
Actually, there are some plastic components, but they're mostly on the inside. Everything's got to be lightweight. You get it on an airliner, most of the fairings and stuff on the inside, the seat covers and that stuff, it's all high impact ballistic plastic, because they got to save weight, and plastic's the lightest thing, and it's easy to replace too. But if you look at the TSDS decals on the right for the C-57D, turns out this was just all one sheet. You had to trim out every single decal. They scratched easily. You only got one. They folded up. They were super thin, very flimsy, and they did not conform well to the. In fact, if you're going to use those decals, I would say grind off the surface detail. But a lot of the stuff will just be easier to paint. Although they do give you a good decal guide. This is the main one. This is the power controller for the C57D. I think that's what they call it. And it had one decal that went over the whole thing like a raincoat. And I used a bunch of Solvaset to try and get it to shrink into place. And that was as good as it would get. The thing is, the colors and everything were right. It had the exactly correct color pattern, but it just couldn't wrap. You'd probably be better off to slice all of the colored stuff out, hand trim it, and then put them on individually. I figured it went on as one sheet because that was the instructions showed. Fortunately, you can't really see that thing very well, so it wasn't that big of a problem. I thought about just peeling the whole thing off and hand painting it, but they went through a lot of trouble to get all the colors and everything correct, but tell you where everything goes. But these things are those. This has almost a saran wrap like texture to it. It is so thin and folds. If you don't slide it on right the first time, and I almost always got a corner tuck on it. So, and these weren't cheap. I forget what they were, $20-something. Plus shipping. So now the thing is that they went great on flat surfaces. The ones with screens and stuff, the doors and things like that were fine, no problem at all. Just a little tricky because again, very thin. Like I say, it's like putting saran wrap on, but they look great when they were on there. So the flat surface is not a problem. For the red navigator's table. They were fine for the two white areas. They had the decals that went over them, but they didn't fit where the flip over the buttons. In fact, I wound up hand painting those buttons. The screen, that's where they see the Krell planet explode. It actually fit a little bit better over that panel. I'd have been better off to slice those off individually and put them on instead of putting them on as the left side as a sheet. But the right side was just a TV panel. It should have gone on without any argument. Well, you got to trim off more than they show, but also all those like solar flares, it's just supposed to be that yellow dot in the center. And I'm like, oh, those are solar flares from the Krell planet blowing up. But what they are is thumb scratches where they just took the ink right off the decal. These things are extremely delicate, but they're the only ones that make it. Hindsight being 2020, I'd really say you're probably better off just hand painting the buttons. And if you want to use the decals, trim each little tiny decal out separately and put it on a flat spot. Don't try to do it as a sheet. And but then again, on the flat surfaces, the doors and things, they work just fine. So I really can't recommend these. I think you're better off painting. But if you want to get them, one thing I'd recommend you do as soon as you get them is go ahead and put some restore fluid on them just to help protect the surface of it. And then, cut them out. You just leave a little bit of clear because they don't slide off. They come off very quickly. They're not in the water 20, 30 seconds and they're ready to come off. So, but you need to leave a little something. You can't really, I scratched the screen there using a Q-tip. I mean, so if you can't touch it with a Q-tip, then you've got to make sure you have a little clear tang to get it off the paper with, something to give you a little control. But they're very tricky to work with, and it's 1/72 scale, which makes matters even worse. The good thing is, since they are so thin, they do lay down, no problems there. And they give you a couple of spares for some of the stuff. You have a few extras, but it was an aggravating job. But it now that they're on there, it looks a lot better.
It's a good thing you enjoy the hobby.
Yeah, it was a challenge. I mean, absolutely. And some when I learned to trim the things right off along the edge in so much as I could, because if you have any extra, you can't like shave it off once you've got the decal in there. You'll wrinkle the whole thing. At least not until it dries or hardens. I did use Solvaset on it. That helped a lot. That covered a multitude of sins. But the little red on the upper left, you see the those little red stripes. Those are to go. You have to cut each one out individually and put it on the back of each chair. And I just found it was easier just to go ahead and use a red marker pen to put the red stripes on the back of the seats. They looked better, and it was quicker, and it was easier. I should have used a little bit of tape as a guide, but in the end, I mean, you got it all to work out. But if I was to do this again, I probably would order the decals, but there are certain ones I wouldn't use. Other ones I would cut out a little more closely. But before I did anything, I'd probably, like I say, probably put Restore fluid over the entire sheet. And so there's also, I might add, just as a point of interest on the C57D, there are a couple of different color charts. So you might want to use the movie as a reference, but you have to remember studio lighting. Some people are going, oh, this area is red. Well, no, actually what it was is this, it's gray, but it had a red accent light on the studio, that kind of thing. And that can get a little tricky. One thing told me to paint one thing red, and another said paint it gray. And the irony is when you get the thing together, you can't see it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But anywho, I was playing with the LED lighting that was gifted to me. I'm like, great, that's all I need now. I got another, another addiction. These LED lights really make stuff look cool. I'm like, I was going to try to avoid this, but there's no getting away from it now. Once you've tried beer, there's no going back. You cannot unknow the majestic elixir of life. And I don't know if you guys ever saw The Simpsons, where Homer and Barney are in high school, and Barney's like a straight A student getting a scholarship to MIT or Harvard. And Homer comes in with a six-pack, hey, I stole some of my dad's beer. And Barney takes one sip and instantly becomes an alcoholic. I see a red door and I want to paint it black. Well, I will add one thing. I'm turning this in, since it's a side build, I'm going to probably get some foam board, make a box to put it in and make it like a simulator. This is going to be the C57D training simulator. So if anybody goes, well, you got that the wrong color. Oh, the simulator's different than the actual ship, which simulators are.
That's one way of explaining. So you know you're really in a simulator?
Yeah. Well, one thing is that, okay, explain this to me. The simulator has a real honest-to-God escape ladder. If something goes wrong, you open the back door and you throw the ladder down. It's like a real two-rope wood-rung ladder, right? The actual airplane, you just get a knotted rope. You ever seen a pilot go out using the escape rope? You pretty much just slows your fall. And
Yeah.
but anyway, so now I said I was going to mention this about the tail. You guys will see it in a few seconds. These are the markings from the bomber, that World War I bomber I just built, the de Havilland 10A. And I have no idea why, but they gave you these big square tail rudder decals, but the tail's round. And I guess it's so you can wrap the excess around the edge so you don't have that edge sewing that I was talking about. I'm not really sure. And file it off, but I've never seen someone do that before. I've seen occasionally slightly oversized decals, but in this case, they're actually not even the right shape. It's a big curved rudder, and they give you these big square pieces, and they'll cover the whole thing, but it's like you're gonna have to do one side, let it dry, file off the excess, then do the other one. And I was like, okay, guys, that's kind of hitting the lazy button there. That being said, though, I actually painted the rudder on the airplane. I prefer to paint those red, white, and blue tails. They just look better, and it's pretty easy. But the decals were 40-something years old, almost 50 years old, and they were thick, kind of heavy, but they went on great. They didn't give me any problems. And I was actually kind of impressed with them, so give Aurora credit for that. They made some decent decals. Whereas the Renwall ones were completely off register. The blue and the white wasn't lined up. It's like the blue ring was slid over a little bit. And that was, you think of Renwall, I don't know about you guys, but when you mention Renwall, I kind of think of quality. And in that case, the decals they were horrid. And it wasn't because it was an old kit. They were literally just not printed right. And it got right past the quality control guys. But that brings us to the next thing I want to talk about. And this is an issue that I've been dreading. It's one reason I haven't started this Weedle Williams racer yet. I want to do Roscoe Turner's Gilmore Red Lion airplane. But that red, black trimmed red stripe goes around the cowling, around the front. But the decal sheet, they give you the little diamond part where it splits out, but no more. Those other red and black stripes go on the fuselage. So they expect you to basically hand paint the rest of it, which means, one, you got to, once you get it in there, you got to figure out how to, mask it off. That's not the end of the world. But we're talking about matching paint, and I'm horrible at matching colors. I know it's supposed to be like 3 points orange to 1 part black or something, but just trying to get the paint to match for me has always been an issue. And it's had, and that airplane has a fairly, it has a fairly complex paint scheme. I mean, it's basically, let me rephrase that. I don't know if I want to use to say complex is the right word, but you got orange trim all the way around the fin, the horizontal stabilizer, the wings, and the wheel spats, plus that mouth. So it's just a lot of trying to get everything trimmed out straight. And when I was in Cleveland, what's that museum in Cleveland? The car and airplane museum, Crawford Museum. The guy, they had a display of, they had pretty much every Williams Brothers 1/32 scale race plane kit from the golden era, and they were so well made, I couldn't find a blemish on them. They're all under glass. It was impressive, the workmanship in it. And it kind of ticked me off because whoever did it probably masked off the whole airplane. But, I mean, there were flawless builds. It made me feel very inadequate. Not that that's a high bar, but anyway, so I've kind of dreaded doing this because I know it's going to be one of those, it's gonna. You can build the airplane in a day. It'd take you a week and a half to paint it and decal it and everything. And then I see guys online who do it and they do nice work. And I'm like, well, I guess if they can do it, I can do it. But
yeah, painting that black stripe edging around that red, that's going to be fun. Yeah,
I figure I'll probably use a fine point paint pen and mask it off and then just trace around with the pen. Now, I did the Weedle Williams 192 that's in the background. It's actually on the shelf, and it's a good kit. But one of the reasons I did that one was because it was a much more straightforward paint scheme. It was just black and white, nothing fancy. Jimmy Weedle wasn't a, particularly ostentatious guy, whereas Roscoe Turner very much was. As bad as that is, I think that one behind it with the red and black 44, that might actually be tougher. I don't know. They had that one there, too, and they did a beautiful job on it. I don't know if you want to paint the black.
Adequate. Go to the museum and look at what professionals who have the best tools in the world can do.
Yeah.
Do it.
Well, they have as a patience. But I'm not sure if you were going to do that one behind at 44 with the red and the black, I'm not entirely sure if I'd paint the cowling black first and then put the red on top of it, or paint it red first and mask that off and then do the black. Might be inclined to do the red first. But what goes better, black over red or red over black? I'm assuming black over red would be more straightforward.
Black over red would be easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What you'd do is you'd paint the red and clear coat it.
Yes. And once you've given it a couple of days to harden.
Yeah, and then paint the black so it doesn't bleed.
Yeah, then you mask off the red, and that would... Man, why do these guys have to have these elaborate paint schemes? Don't they know modelers 70 years later are going to have to try and copy this? Gosh, how rude.
How dare they do that?
How dare they do that? Eric, I've already done the black and white one. It's actually on the shelf. I was like, okay, time to take off the training wheels. But matching that orange paints...
I was going to say, Max, this is your chance to show off your skills.
Because that always works so well.
Afraid of.
Yeah, if that C-57D is any example. I went back and watched the late, great Boyd from Trek Works, and he was showing the saucer section of the floor, and he had like pad sanders and automotive equipment and putty and everything. And he talked about he didn't even know how many hours he spent doing it. I mean, he made a beautiful model when he was done. Speaking of which, Ken, you be able to get on that dome anytime soon?
Sure, Max. Right between my sneezing and sleeping, I got a whole bunch of it done. Yeah.
Good. See that you do. Ken, you said you were feeling. You said you were feeling better.
Don't you feel like you're in Stalag 17?
Yeah, I'm watching his video the other day, and he looks right at the screen and says, "You got that, Ken?"
Just making sure you're doing your homework and watching the videos.
Yeah.
There'll be a test at the end of the month.
Yeah.
How many have you seen, huh, Ken?
Yeah.
Well, I've also been researching building or buying a vacuum machine, which was ridiculously expensive for a big one. The other thing...
I
What?
watched a video on YouTube yesterday. These guys were vac forming padding on dashboards.
Yeah. Well,
I was like,
hold on to
pretty
that
cool.
thought. We're going to get to that because we're going to talk about that in some detail. But first, we all have had decals that have wrinkled or gotten air bubbles. And I watched a bunch of videos on how to, we all popped holes in them with a pen to let the air out, and 3 or 4 coats of dull coat. But it's in my experience, when one gets like this, you're just hosed.
Yep, that's it. You're finished.
And either scrape it off and paint it, or get yourself. I one day got frustrated. I did that. I just scraped off all the white, and then tried to mask it and go in, and it worked. Except that, of course, when I lifted the mask, it took half the blue off. So I've never been able to get Frisket to lay with enough of a seal to.
Just put those on the back of the shelf. That's all.
Yeah. What you do is. You go with a little
Bill
file.
Campbell said, Max.
What?
Quiet for a second.
Okay.
Bill Campbell says, "Max, what did you do to Ken last week that he's still sick this long?"
It was it was a tailored design bouquet infection, but what do you call it? What do you call it? Concierge. It was
Is this one of those mail order drugs you can get from China?
Boutique. That's it. It was a mail ordered boutique drug. But what did you get? Did you get? What did Kathy have something she gave you, or?
Yeah, it came from Kathy.
Oh, poor girl. Did she already gone back home?
Kathy the carrier.
She's fine. Turns out my brother got it too.
Well, once she was done infecting you guys, she didn't need it anymore.
She's fine, and everybody in the family's like in ICU.
Well, what's funny is that Tom's wife, she didn't get it. Debbie didn't get it. It's so focused.
Well, it attaches itself to the Y chromosome.
Hey, wait a minute there.
What?
Never mind. Forget it.
You have a Y chromosome, Ken. We're boys. That's what makes us boys.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe Max Toss Ken.
Kathy, nice.
Yeah, it's all my sister's fault.
But
I was talking to my mom the other day and told her what happened. And she goes, "Oh, Kathy's going to feel so terrible." I said, "Do not tell Kathy. Do not tell her what happened. She'll feel bad enough as it is."
yeah, we wait until we broadcast it on national internet. International.
Yeah, fortunately, she doesn't watch this channel.
Lucky girl.
Smart woman, yes.
For more reasons than one.
She has better things to do with her time.
Well, I found a lot of modern decals lift off even before I have taken the photos. Yeah, that's true. I've had that problem. Decal lift. I mean, I literally, that little Tomahawk that I built, that little P40 that I was maligning, I got the decal. Now, mind you, those decals are pretty old, but I got the decals on it, but both it and that little Mania Nate, those decals are 50 years old. I got the decals on it, pounded it with setting solution, and I had to hurry up and take the photos before they started curling. And I was like,
was painted before it shriveled.
Yeah. That danger of old decals, you know. And but then sometimes you'll get these 50-year-old decals and they'll lay like a drunken dog, you know, and it's like, wow, aren't they all this way?
Dogs get drunk. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you know, feed them enough bourbon, they will.
Is that from experience?
No worries, Frank. Welcome aboard. But I can neither confirm nor deny. But if I had decals,
something your brothers have done.
if I had people I heard about, I read it somewhere. It was in Reader's Digest. If I had a decal that was as far gone as one we have here, though, I'd probably be inclined just to take a little fine grit and just to sand that off. Just try to leave the edges intact, and either put zinc chromate or silver, make it look like the paint had peeled off, and if it's too much, then maybe go in and just use a piece of, you know, paper or something to block off and try to airbrush a little white over it. Never quite matches, but, you know, like you say, then you put it on the back of the shelf. I wouldn't be able to rest knowing it looked that raunchy. And it happens for no good reason other than it can.
Or you could put some streaks on there with a bullet hole at the end of it.
Yeah. Flak damage.
Yeah, what Nathan's talking about, I've seen guys that have taken like masking tape and they'll put the decal on the masking tape and then basically cut it as a stencil. You know, put the masking tape on the model, you know, put the decal on, use it as a stencil, peel it off, then airbrush it. And whatever works, man. I mean, I have trouble drawing a straight line.
Says that if Ken has a problem printing the dome, they can help out.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, Ricky.
That'd be nice because I can only print it in two pieces. My printers aren't big enough, and one just broke.
Yeah, it's got to be 10 inches across to be about the right scale. The one that out of the box is like 9 inches across. Which brings up, I guess now is as good a time as any to start talking about the vacuum forming. Now,
oh boy, we're gonna go on this for a while.
Well, you brought it up. It's all your fault. So, here's.
What you see stage 6 tonight, Ken?
Say again.
What?
Don't you wish you stayed sick tonight?
Starting to.
So the long and the short of it is, I thought, you know, maybe I could vacuum form the bubble on top of the flying saucer, because the vac one will always be a little bit bigger. And if I need it bigger, I could vacuum form on top of that, and then vacuum one on top of that till I got the size I needed. Basically having 4 different sizes. So I thought, let's go see if I can find a vacuum form with a 10-inch or 15-inch planton on it. Well, here's an interesting little bit of trivia, boys and girls. Vacuum form machines go up in price exponentially with every inch of planton space. You can buy the little dental ones that have a 5-inch planton, which is great for making smaller parts. $100, $200 on eBay all day long. But the minute you get up to one with a 9 or 10-inch planton, they are at $1,500 to $2,000 or more. And I saw one of them was a $95,000 vacuum form machine. But Steve, what you're saying, that's what was an industrial one that's like for making dashboards for cars and big stuff like that. Obviously, you don't need anything like that. But then I know you can make your own vacuum form machines fairly easily. Watched a bunch of DIY videos a while back. Well, there's a guy down in Miami that basically makes them out of wood. He makes them, I guess, at his house. And you can just buy the planton all set up with you got to get your own air source, which is usually a vacuum cleaner. But he'll sell you that for like $180, and he'll sell you the heating element for about $260. So for about $400, you can get one with like an 18 by 24 planton, which would be big enough. And
What do you think, Ken? Sounds like a house fire?
I thought about doing that for a little while.
Yeah, no, I mean, vacuum forming actually, it isn't that hard. It's anybody with basic shop skills can make one. And
it's not rocket surgery or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's not brain science.
Yeah, one of those things. But it does take patience and it takes a lot of trial and error to get it right.
Yes. And you gotta now most of these guys make it where they'll build a frame where the heating element's up high and you have a frame that's holding your styrene, and they'll let it heat up until the styrene is nice and saggy, good and soft. Then they'll slam it down on there, hit the air, suck it dry, and just keep the air going until it cools into place. Okay, well, that's one way, but I saw one guy that made one. It was a little simpler. He actually hinged it. So all he did was throw it over. He literally had like door hinges on it, and the heating element was on the side. And I was thinking that actually was less of a production. And he had about a 24-inch planting square because he was making like C-3PO costumes. He had bought an expensive one. He was making cheap knockoff copies for like Halloween costumes and stuff. So one of the most popular things for people to make are the Stormtrooper uniform. They can't make the helmet. I mean, they can make the Stormtrooper helmet in two pieces. If you try to do it all in one, it usually doesn't turn out too well. So they'll do the front and the back and then glue them together.
Yeah, that's too much bending.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got a big industrial machine, sure, that's. Hey, you know how they used to make you know how they made the bubbles for the Bell 47 helicopter?
Mm-hmm.
They did kind of the reverse. They superheated the plexiglass. Okay, of course, they had a big industrial machine, but when they threw it over, they didn't go over a mold. They threw it over a machine that blew air into it at a fixed rate, and it blew the bubble like bubble gum, and just kept the air going until it hardened. And they had it down to enough of a science that they consistently made the same shaped bubble.
That's how the vacuum form toy from Mattel works.
I've got one. I've got one in the shed that I've used to make like face shields for astronauts, and I made a few parts with it. And but the way I figure it is, so that I was thinking about getting one, but it's so much easier, Ken, to have you 3D print it for me. But Ricky, I'll be glad to accept your generosity if you want to make me a 10-inch or 9.5 to 10-inch bubble for the, and of course it's not clear because it's going to go on. I've got the clear one that's actually going over my simulator, but I would love to get that. And I imagine we've all done it. You're shopping with your wife or something. You start seeing these blister packs, and you don't want the toy inside. You want the blister that's covering it because you go, I could use that for my model. Goes, I'll bet that'll fit the windshield of my car. That'll make a perfect bubble top for my airplane. And my wife cannot understand why I save all the empty like battery blister cases. I've got a cardboard box full of nothing but plastic blister cases because every once in a while you can it's perfect. And we're probably going to have some kind of a scratch build coming up in the future, using all our spare parts or something. And we're probably going to do take whatever's in your stash, in your parts stash and make something with it. And that's when that stuff really comes in handy. And
Brian Tay says, it's so much easier to have Ken do all the work.
Well, duh. And, but by the way, while it's on my mind, next Saturday is Pam's Con. I know Fran and Trey are going, but it's also our 200th live stream. And I don't think I would get back in time to put a live stream together, so I don't know if I'm going to make Pam's Con. But Fran's going to send me some pictures. And I still haven't decided if I'm going to go or not. I mean, it's 6 hours and more. It's 6.5 hours driving round trip for me. That's a busy day, and I'd have to leave early and race back here to put anything together for the live stream. So how rude of them to put it on my 200th live stream. We got to figure out what we're going to do for the live stream too. Got to do something special for 200. That's our bicentennial, man.
Human sacrifices?
Nah.
Big explosions?
HOA says I can't do that anymore.
Big explosions?
No, Sheriff's Department says I can't do that anymore.
How about
I
pestilence?
think you guys should do. I think you guys should do it from the boat.
Ooh, there you go.
A 200th video anniversary cruise.
Yeah, Just how much internet do you think that boat has?
Ken's got Starlink.
I'd have to fire it up, but I use my hotspot in my phone. That seems to work pretty well.
I don't know, Ken. A live stream is a lot of bandwidth. But maybe I'll do it with the shed or Hurricane Hobbies.
Hurricane Hobbies would be, I think Hurricane Hobbies would be appropriate.
Yeah, I'll talk to Ian about it. And
Giant Smith says, then Ken can toss Max overboard.
LOL.
Yes, Max does float. I've seen it.
oh, trust me, I bob like a cork. You know it's a big shark when it drags me down. Sacrifice a model.
That has some interesting possibilities.
Well, I don't know.
Yes,
Ever
it
since the
does.
shelf collapsed, it just hasn't meant what it used to mean when I. Yeah. But
Well, that really wasn't a sacrifice. That was the gods telling you something.
Rachel's in Orlando. Okay, somebody knows their way around the airport. That is, Rachel's is what they call it. What they call a gentleman's club, and I don't know why, because there ain't a gentleman in there. But
Walk the plank.
It's called the ballet. That's what they call it in Canada.
the ballet. We're off to the ballet. So
Nice sense of humor.
well,
Crazy.
you
Go
enjoy
to
your
Downtown and then do the live stream from my house.
Max, come to the PamsCon and do the live stream at my house. Won't rule that out. Bring my laptop. That might work.
Firecracker, the P40 Tomahawk. You could do it film it in ultra slow motion, then you can have it play back.
Nah. Plastic models never blow up right. They always split down the seams. Now, a Guilo's kit, pack that puppy full of tannerite. Now you're talking about something that'll explode like a real airplane.
What about if you get an Estes kit and pack it full and launch it?
Yeah, well, you guys are really excited about me blowing something up.
Blowing things up is fun. That's what guys do when they get bored.
We want to see if the government pays attention.
And you were complaining about me throwing Ken under the bus to do work for me. You want me to go to jail for you. I mean, I'm committed to the channel, but I have my limits.
Who said you had to go to jail?
Oh, come on, Ken. You know if we're going to blow something up, it's going to involve the police, the sheriff, corrections, the fire department, an ambulance. I mean, it's not a party till the ambulance shows up.
Better not involve that sheriff that says, "And you will go home in a bag."
That's our Brevard County Sheriff. If you come down here and do this, we will kill you graveyard dead. I was kind of like, okay, guys, were there any questions?
And we will notify your family where to pick up the remains.
And we'll charge them for it too. We believe in the Russian and Chinese theory. You know, after we're done, we charge you for the bullet.
Steel Model Apprentice says the first live streams used to be on Sunday afternoon after church, and it all started because Max was bored from COVID.
Yeah,
That's so true.
Pretty much.
So true.
But
That's where it came from.
that's pretty much how it happened. He does not exaggerate.
So we have the Lord to blame for this.
My first live streams I was doing off my cell phone. We live in the
Anybody know
future.
who the first viewer was? Want to give that guy a medal.
It's probably Monica.
Oh, she has better things to do than watch this show. It might have been Garfield, but
Could Killer says, does Florida have a limit on how much tannerite can be purchased at a time? I would just remove the daily limit.
Florida has a limit on how many alligators and deer you can kill in a day, but Tannerite's pretty much unlimited.
Rob Altus says, we need a sheriff like that. No, yeah, you wouldn't be having those problems right now if you did.
You need a lot of sheriffs like him in L.A.
Well, actually, the L.A. sheriff, from my understanding, is doing what he can. But it's the city that's got the problem. Because the sheriff's elected. Mayor can't fire him. But as we learned when they fired the fire chief, you know, they can fire any city employee. And, oh, well, you know what? That's their problem. You guys have to fix your own situation. All I know is here in Florida, we got it all under control. Of course, everybody wonders why we're all armed around here, and the reason is simple. Have you seen how big the mosquitoes are?
Yeah, that sucker's coming after you.
You know, there's a reason everybody's running 12 gauges in birdshot. It's anti-aircraft fire. But, I saw a hawk, a real honest-to-God hawk, swoop my backyard and stand up on my fence. And I was like, make sure the dog and the cat don't get outside. And my sister-in-law was here with her dog, because it'll be like that. It'll be like that movie, The Proposal, where the eagle grabs the little dog, flies off with it. And I'm like, that bird right there could haul a small canine away. And it may be your little pet, but that thing is just lunch. But they are impressive animals, though. So anywho, yep. Getting back to our decal thing, there was one last little thing on the decals I wanted to cover, which is a problem I'm sure we've all had.
Trey says, our mosquitoes have N numbers.
The last great thing to cover is, some people call it white haloing, some call it silvering, but it's where your decal, all the film is showing. And I've gone so far as to actually, after I once got the decal on, to actually trim out. It was so bad I had to trim out the letters and sand off or if maybe got lucky, was able to use a cotton swab to get rid of the film and everything, because no amount of Solvaset, I mean, the stuff was just, turning silver, and it looked horrible. Now, I know one thing some of the hardcore modelers do that I've never pulled off. They have a way of lifting the cover film off the decal after it's on the model. And I guess they wait for it to harden. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Now, you have to wait for the decal to harden before you do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
You got to make sure so it has full adhesion.
So would you just use friction, or is there a chemical they use, or?
No, you just peel it off. You get a knife and you peel up the end and you grab it and you just slowly peel it off.
Wow. Okay. I'll try that on a model I don't care about someday, because I only learned about that not too long ago.
I mean, that's pretty much how they put those big, striping decals on cars. They come on a sheet of paper and you peel it off. And then
but that's designed to be done that way. Water slide decals aren't really designed to have the cover coating removed. So getting that all off, I've seen some guys, I think they use alcohol or something, but I'm not sure. I have to go watch another
Nathan
video.
Bond said something interesting.
What's that?
He says, Max, why must you make your life harder? If you want to get rid of silvering, you have to apply a gloss coat to the model before applying decals.
That I have heard that's the other thing I was going to do. A lot of guys are saying if you put a gloss coat on, then put the decals on, use your Solvaset, make sure you get all the air bubbles out, and let it harden, and then put another gloss coat over it. That will help prevent silvering, and then you can dull coat it after that, which I think is the way most guys go about it. But of course, some of them still remove that upper film. I got to try that one day just to see if it works, because supposedly it really does make it look better if you do. I haven't ever successfully pulled it off. So, what are you laughing at?
Basic kid.
Ah!
Yeah, sure. Okay. Sexy voice. All right.
Yeah. So anyway, those are the issues with decaling that I have run into. I know there are others, the little flimsy ones that, you know, they just, you can't get them on without them wrinkling. You can't get them straight. Those TSDS decals are like that. And then of course you've also got the ones that won't lay down even if you use a gallon of solva set on them. They look like they're made out of, you know, like they might as well be, you know, coasters off your tabletop. Or, but those are the big things about the decaling that I have found that most people seem to have the common issues. And the quality of the decal, and God help you if you tear one. But one of the things I'm going to do this time, they didn't do that time, when those marine decals show up for the Phantom, it's only the one side I have to use. And I'm going to take some of the other decals off the sheet first to make sure that I don't need to make sure they work okay. Because both of those marine decals dissolved on me when I tried to use them. And that really, really, really irked me because, I think I spent $18 on them or something. Do I have the... Yeah, it's here somewhere. But the... that was just heartbreaking. And I put a little bit of the Restorer fluid on there, but apparently not enough because they just disintegrated. The first one went on, and what happened was it was on the airplane. It was fine. I actually have a picture of it on the airplane. And then I started putting the solva set on, and the solva set apparently just burned too hot and shriveled it. I guess I put too much on. And that was the actual Tamiya decal. And I was like, I'd never had that happen. It didn't happen the other side. I don't know if I put too much on, or that one happened to be particularly sensitive, or what the story was on that. But it was a gut-wrenching. You know, all this work, you're trying to do this really nice model, and then you have that happen. Let's see. Here's the airplane. Now this is actually the replacement decal. You can see the S is broken up and the M is broken up, and that was the one that of the two of them that broke up, that one broke up less because I had put the Restorer fluid on it, but it still looked like crap. And that was the second one. The first one just literally here it is. Here's the first one, and this thing just, as soon as the water hit it, it came apart. And I mean, you'll see in a few seconds when it comes up that it looked like somebody hit it, you know, with phaser 2 set for disrupt. I'm sitting there looking at this, is on my table, like, this is like 30 seconds after I put it in the water and I started to move it, and that happened. I'm like, I didn't even touch it. The stuff just started floating away in chunks. So I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So I took the other one and covered it in the Restorer fluid, and I almost got it. But then as I was straightening the decal out, it broke up, and I was able to slide the major pieces back into place enough to get some photos and show it to the colonel. I made sure not to show him that side, but I was never happy with it. So about 3/4 of that has been wiped off now. So once I get those decals in, we'll see. And I was like, you know, every model, it happens on every model. Something goes wrong. And if it had been a small decal, I'd have just said, "Ah, heck with it, they'll never notice." But I mean, that's like the biggest decal on the model.
Pretty close, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that I can't let that slide. But,
They have flak damage.
Yeah, trust me, the thought crossed my mind. But
they repair the airplane. Do they repaint it too after?
Oh
they
yeah,
repair it?
yeah, man. That's your squadron pride flying around on that thing. You're not gonna let that go undone. And it was just, from a distance, you didn't really notice that much unless you looked for it. But, you know, being the guy building the model, I mean, I know, and it's just one of those things it just bugs you. And you're like, argh. And it wasn't until I talked to the colonel that I realized I had the wrong drop tank arrangement. They were only carrying a centerline tank, so I wouldn't change that. Took the wing tanks off. But, man, those wing tanks, it's like 300 gallons a side. And they go through that pretty quick. My God, those things are... That is the world's fastest way to convert jet fuel into noise and air pollution.
Do they drop the tanks before they go feet dry, or do they wait until?
Yeah, they only drop the tank. I think they only drop the tanks if they go into combat. But I don't think they. Apparently, I don't think they. Well, I guess they could use those tanks if they wanted to. But if they're going to get in a fight, they drop the tanks. But if not, they take them back because, believe it or not, and I actually talked to a guy who did this on the aircraft carrier. One of the things about those drop tanks, people don't think about this, and it wouldn't be such a big deal for the Air Force, but they only have so much storage space on a ship. And drop tanks are big, and they eat up a lot of physical space. There's only so much room to store so many of them. And they're not cheap either. So they only punch them off if they're going to go into a fight. Otherwise, they bring them home. And
so why don't they launch with the wing tanks, and why only with the center tank?
Well, every mission's planned differently. What weapons and tankage you carry, I believe it is the operations officer that makes those determinations, and I imagine the pilots have some input. But you don't need those big tanks if you're not going that far. And they were only going a couple of 100 miles each way to get to the battle area and get back. If they were going to be doing a really long mission, they might have carried those tanks. I think they might have carried all three. But you also got to have room for bombs, too. And one reason I think they were using the centerline tank was so they could use the hard points into the wings, although that was a MiG cap. And they also they were supposed to hit the tanker, which, of course, as I've told you guys in the story, when they got there, the tanker wasn't there. And the first thing they did when they got into the fight was punch off the center tank, which was the fuel had already been used. So that was, I would assume, given the, because I'm not sure that tank may be actually a little bigger than the center tank, or maybe about the same size. So if you're using two of those things, you're going a pretty long way, I would imagine. Of course, the aerial refueling capability, of course, then you got to have a tanker, so they got to plan each mission individually. If you ever notice, you watch them, they're never taking off with the same load twice unless they're flying the same mission they'd already flown. It just depends on what you're doing. And like a ferry flight, they'd probably have all three tanks on the airplane and nothing else. And some aircraft can be rigged up with a fuel tank on every hard point, which would probably be a ferry configuration. But so it depends on your range needs. And a lot of you see the Air Force sometimes. It was really weird. The F-105, you'd see a fuel tank on one side and ordnance on the other, and an asymmetric load, which always kind of made me scratch my head. But I guess by the time the tank was empty, you dropped your bombs, plane was back in balance. You had a drag on one side, but most pilots dread the idea of asymmetry. More weight on one side than the other, but it's within the airplane's operational limits. Of course, these guys have to come back and land on a carrier that way. I don't know, but look at how low those wing tanks hang. It must have been fun to go trap on a carrier with those big things hanging down there like that. And when during the Korean War, they had those little teardrop shaped tanks in the P-80s, and they came up with what was called a Misawa tank. A couple of young lieutenants realized that you could put a center section in that fuel tank, make it longer, and it could hang on the airplane. And so they called Misawa tanks because they were based in Misawa, Japan. And they started using them. It gave them another 20 minutes or whatever over the target area, which was critical in Korea. But here was the catch on that. This wasn't something that was engineered by Lockheed. This was something that was done out in the field. So they warn you, if you carrying those things and you get in a dogfight, you bloody well better punch them off, because that was a lot more weight on the wingtips than and drag than the airplane was originally intended for. And if you try to pull any G with those things, you'd probably just pull them off the wing.
Did they also make them out of metallized cardboard or something like that?
During World War II, compressed cardboard. It had a couple of different materials, and the pressed paper ones, because it was a throwaway unit. But there's a lot of misconceptions about World War II and range. Greg over at Greg's Aircraft and Automobiles has done several videos about this, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about that. Now, here's a Masala tank. Okay. Copy image. Apparently, with the right kind of fuel tanks and everything, the Thunderbolt was able to escort the bombers much, much further. And they're like, well, why didn't they do it? And apparently, it got into a lot of stuff about generals who had ideas about how things should or shouldn't be done. And apparently they found a document where they said, we don't want these tanks. And somebody who apparently just, I don't know what their rationale was, but once it turned out that the bombers, I think it was the bomber commanders didn't want them because, the bombers will take care of themselves. And when that turned out not to be true, we don't know what you're talking about. We've always needed a long-range fighter. Wait a minute. And it's very rather ugly chapter in the Air Force's history, if his information is correct. Okay, here's a Masala tank, and it is essentially a standard drop tank with the front and back cut off and a midsection plugged into it. And that is a lot of weight to put on the wingtip of a P-80. And when you took off with that thing, you had to be real careful. I forget what it was, like a 2G limit or something, for fear it might just pull the thing off the airplane. But that gave him some badly needed range. And because obviously those old jets were extremely fuel thirsty.
Especially those old ones.
Yeah. Yeah, oh man, with those plenum engines on them, yeah, those things are just yum, 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 gas. But, necessity is the mother of invention. Of course, once we started taking airfields back in Korea, this is when the planes were having to fly out of Japan. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not only did they make boats out of them, I know a guy that made a boat out of one of them, but Steve, didn't they used to make race cars out of them, little midget racers? Drop tank cars?
Yeah, after the war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they took them up to Bonneville. They were called belly tankers.
Belly tankers, that was it.
They'd put a flathead Ford in the rear, and they'd put a little bubble windshield in the front, and they'd put four wheels on them, and they'd take them out to the salt flats and run them. There were some pretty famous ones.
I have come to the conclusion that if you give boys a barrel, a box, or a tube, they're going to make some kind of vehicle out of it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a soapbox derby, a belly racer, or,
or something that blows up.
Ooh, one can only hope.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real fun day, Ken.
That's when it gets exciting. And it's like, what does he say? When the ambulance shows up, now we have a potty. But,
Celebrating says someone made a kit of the belly tank racers. Steve?
Oh,
yeah, it was.
They made a series of them, and they had rubber band motors.
Well, we've had some belly tank racers submitted to the viewers' builds. I don't know if it was Fran that made it or who, but I seem to remember some. And there you go, guys. When we say go to your stash, find four wheels and a drop tank, and you're halfway on your way to having your model.
Oh, great, you're in.
Now, personally, I plan to put a bunch of them together on wheels and tracks and put a mazer on top and have them chase Godzilla because I saw one of the most perverse things I've ever seen. Somebody took a Godzilla and cut the top section off and put like a giant Gundam on top, so it was like Gundamzilla, and did a real nice job on it too.
That's sacrilege. How dare they?
Right.
Well, my plan is with that next Polar Lights Godzilla I've got, I want to cut him in half. The bottom half, I want to make the suit that Nakajima wore when he did it. You know, put the straps on it and everything. And Monica's going to make a doll to put in there. And on the upper half, I'm going to mount him on fake water, so whenever I build a model ship, I can pose it with it. And,
There you go.
you know,
It's gotta make sure
remember,
that the ship's the right scale.
if you want the rescue boats to come, you put out SOS. If you want to make sure nobody responds, put Godzilla attack. Because then all the boats turn and run away, very bravely run away.
John just asked, have you seen the
Godzilla whiskey decanter. I think somebody sent me a link on that.
Yeah. They also have Godzilla ice cube tray.
That may have been what I saw. Here's the
Makes little ice Godzillas.
Icezillas. This is the right here is the little part I'm talking about that I have to paint from there up around the cowling, and try and match that color. They give you a really nice decal sheet with this thing, though. I mean, it's it's several different airplanes. 92 was the one I did last time. That's the black and white Jimmy Wheels plane. And then, of course, Gilmore is Roscoe Turner's, and which was, what was his number? I forgot. And then 44, 121. And then 44, I don't see the 44 on here. Oh, there's the 4. Yeah, 44. That's the other one. So, and they give you the instruction sheet has, and the kit has some rubber tubing and some hoses and things, and they tell you each one of these airplanes was a little different, and they actually have like the rigging, landing gear rigging for if you make this one, and use the tubing if you use this one for the exhaust, use this for the exhaust, use that, because these guys are always tinkering on their airplanes and making changes. And
Oh yeah, I've done some work with AI. I don't think AI knows what's really going on. It just goes what the internet has.
well, sure.
So
It scours the net and tries to make connections. And one of the things that they say it hallucinates, which is not, but it's not hallucinating. It's just drawing wrong conclusions. I'll tell you something, though. I've seen some AI that was professionally manipulated, and it was very impressive. You can still sort of, if you're not paying attention, it would pass the Uncanny Valley test and the Turing test. But if you watch close, something about it isn't quite right. Yeah, the Williams Brothers kits are a bit tedious. You pay for all that detail. They really loved what they were doing. But why did they stop using QCD? I don't know. The CQD or QCD?
what's that?
Before they used SOS.
Oh, I don't know. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, that goes back quite a ways, but I think it was before there was a standard. Are you suggesting Godzilla doesn't exist?
No, we never do that.
What we have is Schrodinger's Godzilla. Now, let me explain. All right.
Oh, this ought to be good.
Okay. I'm sure everybody here knows Schrodinger's cat. You put the cat in the box with poison food or a bomb. Until you open the box, it's either dead or alive. You don't know, so it exists technically in both states at the same time. Superposition. So the
Kind of like a lottery ticket.
until the numbers come up, you have a winning ticket. That's true. And think of it that way,
Until you
Ken. But
scratch the numbers off.
you're absolutely right. A lottery ticket lives in superposition until they pick the
Till you scrape the numbers off. The stuff off.
yeah. So Godzilla exists in our minds, even though it's an act of fiction. But until we have proof that he doesn't exist, one could argue it's possible that he does, and it hasn't been discovered. So you have Schrodinger's Godzilla. He both exists and doesn't exist. We know of him, so he exists, if only in our minds, but we haven't found a real one, so he doesn't exist. So he both does and does not exist at the same time. Schrodinger's Godzilla. And if we wake up tomorrow and Tokyo's a smoking hole, well, what do you know? He does exist.
Wow. That hurts to think about.
Now you want to oh, the Titanic was the first one to put SOS. Okay, yeah. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Oh, that's CQD. Okay.
Yeah, CQD. And I don't think it means anything. Uh-oh, Steve got disconnected. Okay.
Well, if you look at SOS,
are you back with us, Steve?
Yeah, I got dropped. I don't know what happened.
It happens. Cell phones.
Yeah.
Godzilla exists. The rest of us don't. Well, somewhere in a parallel universe or on another planet, Godzilla is watching a TV where the humans are attacking him, and to him, that's the monster movie. Chew on that one. So, somebody asked me.
That's what CQD means. Come quick danger. Oh, okay.
Okay, well, okay. I don't know what QCD stood for. Okay, I think it's CQD, but that
CQ,
makes sense.
Okay.
Are you stoned? Okay. Rust stoned.
So
that sounds like a paint. That sounds like a paint brand. I use Rust Stone. Are you stoned?
So CQ is like going on a CB radio and saying breaker, breaker. Kind of like that, saying, hey, I want to get in here. And then the D is just short for saying, attention, I need help. Yeah, well, SOS is easier to do.
Maybe we're all figments of Godzilla's imagination.
Well, I've been asked by people, like, why has that franchise lasted 70 years? And that's like, because they've kind of created the perfect the perfect creature for that sort of movie. It has the excitement of dinosaurs with the added feature of radiation, which was the big word back then, and it became iconic. And once it enters the public zeitgeist, there's no stopping at that point. King Kong is also right up there with him, although Godzilla arguably has a bigger following and is more prescient in entertainment. But somebody, I forget who it was, I think it was Alternate History Hub or something, did one and was actually pretty well researched. He talked about, it was about a 6-minute video about what if Godzilla was real. And it's probably still out on YouTube. And it was interesting because he talked only about how you could get beachfront property for a song because no one would live within 20 miles of the coast anywhere in the world, and how it would affect markets, and it would put an effective, almost an end to international trade, at least via ship. And but he really actually did some analysis on it. It would start religions, and I was like, wow. He really went down the rabbit hole on that one.
Well, Nathan just summed it up. He says, you have to feel sorry for Godzilla. He says, after all, he was a lizard, living his authentic lizard life, and then we nuked him and turned him into a monster and tried to kill him.
Hey, King Kong was minding his own business till he was abducted.
And had his own little island.
Yep. Until he was a victim of a Class 1 felony. Okay, H&X, it's not Godzilla and Bigfoot walk into a bar, it's Godzilla and Bigfoot walked on a bar. But
Dennis wants to know, do they still need a guy in a rubber suit? Yes.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's all CGI now, but for some reason, to me, I know they made a lot of really bad movies, especially when they started aiming at kids. But
I like Dario.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I haven't seen anything from him before, but he's got my attention.
Decals the guy's a short hop. Yeah. In this thing that all roads lead through Godzilla to World War II to space travel. That's how this show works. Yeah. Man can only attack Godzilla with high interest rates, low resale values, unnecessary taxes. So we have the upper hand. I have seen some really funny spoofs and fan films and stuff about Godzilla's comedy stuff. But the one I love is where he's swimming in the ocean and Rodan's sitting on his back. And I never even noticed this before. And Godzilla says, "Can you see where we're going?" And they show a front view of Rodan. Did you ever notice those two spikes on his beak stick straight up in front of his eyes?
Yeah.
And he goes, and you see his point of view. Look at it. He goes, "I don't know. I can't see squat." It's like, who came up with that? Yeah, it's self-blinding. They go to
Every live stream devolves to Godzilla.
Yeah. Well, they go to the island of canceled Godzilla antagonists. It's an island full of monsters that Toho elected not to make movies with.
Monster Island.
But well, now what you want to do though is you want to swap universes. What?
Modern Godzilla has become the Geico Gecko.
Godzilla is a failed SS experiment. Failed when he refused to kill Russia, so Himmler's shifting to Japan. That's why he's so pissed off. Actually, have you seen the Wehrmacht, Godzilla versus the Wehrmacht? You know, you got it backwards. The Russians invented him and sent him to attack the Germans. Go watch the video.
You haven't lived with Godzilla unless you've seen that movie.
Yeah, it's out there. Godzilla versus the Wehrmacht by Translunar Productions with Ken as your host.
That's right.
Made him wear a suit and everything. Shot a lot of that at the train club.
Scientist Ken.
Only the top half. I still had jeans on.
But he's one of them hipster professors. But I wonder though, Island of Misfit Monsters, yeah, that's it. I wonder if you could sell models. Just this is just a bad idea. I mean, Atlantis should look at what it's got. You know, B-58 Hustler, B-52, whatever, and put in, and they need to get the Godzilla license back and say Godzilla versus the Air Force or whatever. You know, they had a Godzilla or King Kong one where he's got an F-105 Thunder Chief in his hand, and I'm like, you know what? Put in a 57 Chevy and just sell it as a, you know, you invent your own universe. You've got the model molds. Come up with something original and market the crap out of it. And people
it could become a movie.
You never know. Hey, Pirates of the Caribbean, they got the idea for that from a theme park ride.
Mm-hmm.
And
you never know.
You never know. People are always looking for something fun, and people who like these kind of movies, they love imagination. I mean, imagine combining Lost and everybody wants to see Star Wars versus Star Trek, the Empire versus the Federation. You know, figure out a way to do a crossover with that, which they in a little bit sort of did with Voyager. You know, Star Trek versus Star Wars. There was a YouTube channel called Space Battles where they would mix up the genres, the X-Wings and Vipers. Chasing down TIE fighters and Cylon Raiders, that kind of thing. And I think, I used to enjoy that. That's cool. I don't know how the Enterprise would stack up against an Imperial battle cruiser, but personally, my money's on the Enterprise, but a lot of people seem to think the battle cruiser has the advantage.
Brian says, in Soviet Russia, Godzilla is afraid of the women.
Godzilla versus the woke pukes.
Woke pukes. How about Godzilla versus the state of California?
No, actually, hold on.
Godzilla cleans up L.A.
No. They actually, someone about a year ago did a cartoon where Godzilla comes on the shore in L.A., takes one look at the place and goes, crap, it's already destroyed, and turns around and goes back in the ocean.
Brown. Yeah, I've seen that.
Have I been here before? Yeah, I wrote the storyline, the treatment for a movie idea, and the opening scene is you see a tiger tank at night moving slowly across the high grass, and then right behind it comes something that looks mysteriously like King Kong, but he's wearing a helmet and has like Conan style wrists protectors with the spike on the front and everything. And behind that is a Pershing, and it's post-war Europe. All the Europeans are allied against the Russians, but we've got these giant creatures, and then the reptiles are working with the Russians, so they've got their Jurassic Park type dinosaurs and faux Godzillas and stuff, and it's it's JS2s versus tigers and Pershings with sort of a King Kong versus Godzilla vibe to it, and while the infantry with their 50 cows and are fighting off the smaller, faster moving dinosaurs and stuff, and very, very, very chaotic battlefield with big and small reptiles, armor, all the stuff we love, German wonder weapons, and all that kind of stuff. All the stuff that's fun to imagine and play with. What kind of a what if would you have if you had, all these things in an idiotic mashup? And I'm telling you right now, that movie would make $1 billion. People would go just to see the Triflugel, or the all those weird stuff that Anagram makes models of that the Germans just had on paper, And I want to see the flapjack. By God, I want to see that flying flapjack in action. That Chance Vought thing that looked like a frisbee with the two big props on it. They never gave it a chance. They had things ready to go and they didn't fly it. Oh, jets of the future. I don't care. I want to know if it flies. That's the rudest thing they ever did. And,
there are a few projects they canceled just as they were getting ready to fly because jets were taking over?
Oh, a bunch of them. A whole bunch of stuff. There are a bunch of projects that were making headway that were canceled that had real potential. There was an airmail airplane. I forget the name of it offhand. It was optimized for airmail. A lot of people don't realize the airmail actually began during the First World War, but it was more of an experiment. Around 1919, it really took off, but then you had the airmail scandal and all this other stuff. But anyway, the flapjack did fly. No, but I meant the big one. They flew the test bird, the yellow thing, but they never flew the big one with the R-2800s on it. Yeah, big four-blade. Oh, man, that thing was weird looking, but I bet it would have been hell on wheels. But anyway, they invented this mail plane in 1917, and I forget the name of it offhand. It was a small company, but it was optimized for carrying the mail. It did a great job. And they looked like they were going to be a big airplane manufacturer, and then the war ends, and all these DH-4s get dumped on the market for they're already paid for, so the government kind of has to use them because they're basically free, and that killed that other airplane. There are a lot of airplanes that were bumped off when the war ended, or one of the wars would end, and it was like really making headway, and and the sad part is that some of the airplanes they proceeded with, like the Brabazon, I hate to say this because I would have loved to have seen these cool idea aircraft fly, but I can't disagree with their judgment. They were right to kill them because they just weren't needed, and it's a lot of money. And one time they did see, I don't know if you remember the Brabazon, that big British thing with a thick wing, by the time the Brabazon actually flew, it was already a white elephant. The DC-4s and DC-6s were on their way, and Constellations are out there, and I'm like, guys, they started designing this thing before the war even ended. And
well, I mean, the Comet beat it to the market.
Well, yeah. The British paid the price for being the first with the Comet, which was
yeah.
Unfortunately, this is how we learn. But the later Comets, like the Comet 4, was actually a competent airplane, and it had all the problems fixed. But Boeing already had the leap on the market, and quite frankly, the Comet was hard pressed to compete with the 707. And the DC-8, the Curtiss Ascender, if they'd had time to work that out. The pushers, a couple of the pusher aircraft they were playing with had potential. Once the jet engines came out, they would have been a natural for a jet engine. But at that point, it's just an airframe. XF5U, there you go. But the thing I like about the XF5U, not only just because it was so wild and weird looking, but supposedly it had and this is why they should have tested it. It had really good short field capability, yet could really go fast when it was cleaned up. And that's a hard thing to capture, to have great low field, short runway requirement, good low speed handling, and then go, 400 or 500 miles an hour, because there wasn't much drag on it. It was just basically a flying potato chip. And
Celebrating Vintage Model Kit says they had to use a wrecking ball to break it up. It was so solidly built.
You're gonna make me cry, Eric. God,
That's
they
a
used a
shame.
wrecking
Like that,
ball.
okay, it didn't fly. Put it in a museum.
Well, the Army was playing with that gigantic HLH heavy lift helicopter, and it never got finished and never flew. And it was out in front of the museum at Fort Rucker. I saw it several times, and I was always impressed with it. It basically looked like a Chinook with the landing gear off of a sky crane. And it was supposed to be able to carry, a whole bunch of guys up in the fuselage while carrying their vehicles or whatever, below it. And we never finished it. I guess it just got too expensive. But it was in front of the Army Museum. Well, it started to rot just from years being out exposed to the weather. And they eventually had to tear it apart. And everybody was all upset. And they were like, look, this is only in front of the museum because it was just gifted to us. But we can't put any money in it because it's not an Army helicopter. It never flew. And I'm like, you know what? They kind of got a point there. And, man, that would have been something if they could have made that work. But as helicopters, like anything else, as they get bigger, they get exponentially more expensive. The cost of operating a Hughes 500 or a Jet Ranger is a fraction of what it costs to fly a UH-1, which is, 50% bigger. And you get up in the Chinooks and the big heavy lift helicopters, they're god-awful expensive. You get bigger than that, they get to the point where it's just about not affordable. And I think the Chinook is probably the most practical large helicopter. It's big enough to do pretty much any job you need it to, while at the same time it's a mature platform and it's not so big that you can't afford to operate it. The Army's become very dependent on the Chinook, especially in Afghanistan with the mountains. And and they flew those sky cranes until they were just getting so old, and they go, well, we can't have two platforms, so that's just not cost effective. And so when the sky cranes timed out, the last guard unit parked them. Gosh, I think it was like 91 or something. I forget. They got their money's worth out of them. The Chinooks they just kept making because it could do things the crane couldn't do. And I didn't know the Air Force played with the Kestrel.
There's some people just going on about pancake syrup and
potato chips. And
hey, you know what? This is just a lodge meeting.
Yeah.
Godzilla versus Dr. Smith. Be gone, you cold overgrown lizard. Oh, the path, the pain, the pain.
Especially from Quebec.
That would be fun. Start your Godzilla movie with the B9 robot coming away with his arms. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. Run away, run away. You see Godzilla come over the hill. One of my favorite little memes that shows Batman standing up looking out the window of a high-rise building. You see Godzilla's face outside the window looking in, and it just says, Alfred, start the car.
Garfield says, the chat has digressed. Yeah, a long time ago.
Hey, you just found out?
That happened.
We've forgotten what we came here for, but we like the store. But get my what I was saying earlier. Now, I do think if you were to come up with some fantasy repackagings, well, how come they never had the final countdown as, sell a couple of zeros and a couple F-14s and a small scale model of the USS Nimitz, Man, guys would have been buying that left and right. And
good point.
Didn't they do the F-14 and box it as a final countdown kit?
They might have, but it didn't come with a zero, so,
No, it didn't, no.
It's like, it's one thing when you just go, here, let's take the course they're already making and slap a Baba Black Sheep, logo on the front.
Wow.
But I'm talking about actually, hey, let's get all these things to put them together and come up with our own franchise, Godzilla versus the invaders, That'd be a good one.
Well, look look at all the great sci-fi rockets from the 50s they never made models of until recently.
Yep. Well,
And
there have been several, including some award-winning dioramas of Godzilla fighting the Martians from War of the Worlds, and
Worlds.
and I mean that's a natural cross. There's been some videos, some fan film videos made about it. You could pretty much package Godzilla with any. You could come up. In fact, you get the UFO invaders, you get the War of the Worlds invaders, you get pick the invaded Mars attacks invaders if you want, and you package them all with a model of Godzilla, and you make it the Alien pack, the Godzilla Saves the Universe pack. Guys will be buying that stuff left and right.
Steve, you need to talk to your buddies about this. Max is on a roll here.
I can't get them to talk about real world stuff. Never mind. Godzilla.
Speaking of which,
Aliens.
Steve, why don't you
Yes.
now that we getting back to real world models, why don't you enlighten everybody what you were telling me earlier about the deals, what's going on over with Galpin and all that stuff
Well,
that you can share.
as you know, the boys at Galpin Motors have out in California. They have quite a collection of show cars. They have several Ed Roth cars. They have the Hirahata Merc, which was a famous hot rod done by the Barris brothers. And they just acquired the Uncertain T. So Atlantis is trying to put together a Galpin collection, which is in the planning stages, that would start with probably the Tweety Pie, which they have, which is an Ed Roth car, and then the Uncertain T, and then the Orbitron, and maybe the Rotar and the Hirahata Merc, and have a Galpin collection as a sub-brand in the Atlantis kit line, like Hewer's Customs are. And so it's in the negotiating stages right now. I've been negotiating with Galpin and trying to fine tune the numbers, and we're close. And a couple of weeks, we probably will have a deal that we could move forward with.
Let me put a picture of the Uncertain T up here real quick for those who are not familiar with it. Make sure I got the right car. And browse, click, button clicks.
Do the guys in Atlantis ever do any focus groups to say, hey, what would you guys like to see?
You're talking to the focus group. It's me and Keeler are the focus group. Not that they listen to us, but we're the ones who say, you should make this. You have this mold, make this, come out with this. That's the focus group.
And they don't listen
Now-
to you guys.
Yeah, well, they're starting to. That's the Uncertain T. The Uncertain T was built by Steve Scott, and it was modeled by Monogram. Steve took the car and squirreled it away for over 50 years. And then took the car out after moving it from place to place to place so nobody knew where it was, and sold it to the guys from Galpin. So the original kit was made by Monogram. The mold has long been destroyed. So I know the guy at Galpin who does all the restorations, Dave Schutten, who is a protege of Barris, and approached him and said, hey, would you like to make the model again? And so he's pushed it over, and we've been involved with Bo Bachman, who's the CEO of Galpin, and we're currently negotiating to have a new mold made for it and, reintroduce the kit as part of the Galpin collection.
Okay, I got Tweety Pie up here with it now too. And so hopefully we'll be seeing both of these model cars in the couple of year. What do you think?
Probably within the next year. The Tweety Pie is easy. The Tweety Pie, Atlantis has the mold of, because it was a Revell kit. The gas tank part of the mold was destroyed, so that needs to be fixed, but that's a pretty easy fix. And, you know, we would probably start with the Tweety Pie because that's the quickest one we'd be able to come out with, and then make the mold for the Uncertainty, and then see how each car goes, and then come out with the other cars, and hopefully have a whole collection of about 6 or 7 cars as the Galpin collection.
Okay, so it'd basically be whatever Galpin owns would be probably the target of what you would have them build.
Well, see, they have some other Roth cars, but Revell owns the molds.
Okay.
They have the Mysteron, and they have one other car which Revell has the molds of. The car that's never been made, which we'd like to make, is the Orbitron, and we'd probably like to make the Rotar. But the Hirohata Merc is never been made by anybody, and that would be a really important kit to the hot rod community. Guys would really eat that thing up.
I'm sorry, which one?
The Hirohata Merc.
Ah.
Which was done by George Barris and his brother Sam. Sam did most of the work on it. And, you know, it would be a real landmark kit to come out with, as will be the Uncertainty and the other kits they have. So we're, you know, trying to move this along, and hopefully it will happen. And but remember, all you guys out there, remember this: Atlantis kits are all made in the United States. Therefore, there's no duty. The retails will stay affordable, as opposed to some of the other kits that come from China, which, if you've been to your local hobby store or to a Hobby Lobby lately, the prices have gone up significantly.
15 to 20%.
Yeah, they're $5 to $9 higher than they were last month.
This Rotar, did it supposed to hover with fan blades, or just made it look cool?
No, it hovered with a fan.
Oh, okay.
Those two little fan things were little motors in the back, and it sort of hovered, rode on a cushion of air.
Okay, cool looking little car.
The
Very
Orbitron,
Jetsons.
yeah, and the Orbitron is the one that I'm kind of excited about if we could make, because it's never been done before, and it was a pretty interesting car. As a matter of fact, they found the car outside of how should I put it?
Cat house
bookstore. An adult bookstore in Mexico.
Yeah,
And it was actually being used as a dumpster, and somebody saw it and recognized it, and they were able to sort of get it out of the, you know,
country.
Yep, they got it back into the U.S. and they fully restored the car.
Wow, I'm sure that's an interesting story and how it got there.
Yeah, nobody seems to know.
Yeah, well, okay. You know, I was going to say something, but I'm just not going to say that. Yeah, American. No, I'm not even going to imply it.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm not going to say it was probably stolen.
Shame on you, crowd. Atlantis quality does not suck. For molds that are that old, they put out a really good quality kit.
Let's put this up here. Let me go here. I remember we talked about this sometime back, I imagine, and I have no idea where my original pictures were, but there we go. Okay, and there's the Orbitron. You'll see it in a minute.
No, Nathan, because although the molds are 70 years old, they're molds that were done by Revell, Monogram, Lindbergh, Pyro, some other kits. Those molds were really well done, and they were really well taken care of. And Aurora also. So These cars that we're talking about would be new molds that would be cut.
Wow, they're making new molds.
Well, that's a little easier to do these days because
it's all CAD CAM that does it. It's not done pretty much by hand anymore.
Right.
So, but the Orbitron would be an interesting car. If you notice that you have the red, green, and blue headlight,
yeah,
but you have the white headlight on the other side. So the impetus would be that the conversion of the three colored lights would turn into white.
Ah.
And supposedly it did work.
Yeah, from a distance.
Yeah, well, not if you're standing right on top of it.
Well, Ken, it's a car headlamp. I hope you're at a distance.
Yeah.
That look very aerodynamic.
It's not made to be aerodynamic. It's made to look awesome. That's its function in life. Red, green, blue. You know, they turn those red, green, blue lights into projectors. You could like show your own drive-in movie.
The Atlantis 57 Nomad is a Revell kit, Proud. It's not an unpolished turd. You just have to be very skilled to build it.
Yeah, a lot of the Atlantis molds were made in the 50s or 60s, so they are.
Yeah.
I know some of their airplanes. I think the B-29 dates back to the 50s.
No, William, they did not turn the Tweety Pie into the Rodfather.
Into the what?
The Rodfather, which was another hot rod.
Okay. Yeah, Tweety Pie is currently at Galpin, though, right?
Yes.
The Bulldog dump truck?
Yes, it's the old Mack dump truck. It's called the Bulldog because of the way that the front hood of the cab was. And they have a series of kits that were Bulldog trucks. And so the dump truck is one that hasn't been re-released yet. But they've re-released several Bulldog trucks.
Oh, it's a monogram kit, right?
It was a monogram kit.
1926 Bulldog dump truck. There it is. That's not the same thing they made the beer wagon out of, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
I remember TD was telling me about that.
Mm-hmm.
That they wanted to do something with it, and that was like his first assignment, like his test to see if they were going to bring him on. See what you can do with this. So he shortened the wheelbase and everything, and they were real happy with his work on it.
Bill, the X-17 will be shipping next week, so it'll be on the shelves pretty soon.
So at the missile.
And I've seen a finished version of it, and that was built up. It's pretty nice.
You talking about the rocket?
Yeah.
So they're finally going to get the X-17 kit out there to us, huh?
Yep.
Was that like a proposed plan? I mean, they actually built one. I don't know if they ever launched it.
I don't know. I mean, I could never understand that kit because it was not something that was sort of a popular, rocket in its day. You didn't hear much about it. But Revell came out with it, and,
I don't remember the X-17. What does that look like?
Yeah, I'm going to put a picture up here in just a second.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I didn't even copy. Hold on.
Craig, the Talos missile will be out also in about a week.
Okay, I'm just clicking buttons. Come on, I'm clicking buttons as fast as I can. Okay.
Move those little fingers, Max.
Edit, paste, crop. I'll save as JPEG X-17. Save. Okay.
Look for these at Ollie's.
No.
Where are they going to be selling them out of?
They'll be, in your local hobby store.
Well, they might be in Hobby Lobby.
No.
Okay, here's the X-17, and according to this,
Hobby Lobby is incredibly difficult. If you look at the assortment in Hobby Lobby, with the exception of the addition of Gundam kits, the assortment barely changes. There are items that have been in there for over 2 years.
Noticed. Same tank. The Lockheed X-17 was a 3-stage solid fuel research rocket to test the effects of high Mach atmospheric re-entry. The first stage of the X-17 carried the rocket to 17 miles before burning out. The rocket would then coast with momentum to about 100 miles before nosing down for re-entry. The second stage would fire before jettisoning and ignite the third stage, going down because they wanted to get speed. It would reach speeds of 9,000 miles per hour at Patrick Air Force Base. Ultimately, the X-17 would be traveling towards Earth at up to Mach 14.5. The X-17 was also used as a booster for the Operation Argus series of 3-altitude nuclear tests. And so it was a real rocket. And
crap, there are no Tamiya kits at Ollie's. It's certain Atlanta kits, it's round 2 kits. Those and there's Vel kits that are starting to show up there.
So there's one more thing I grabbed a picture of. You were just talking about, so I can find it.
Is Horizon Hobby still in business?
No, it went out of business.
Okay, so yeah, Nathan, you're right. Keep it.
I love these Revell box kits art from the 50s with the rockets being launched in the mountainous terrain.
Oh, Florida, baby. Well, maybe it's supposed to be White Sands. And although it was it's actually fired at Patrick Air Force Base. So this is how we learned. You know, we shot the things. I shot a rocket into the air. Where it landed, I know not where. Mexico, most likely. You realize the United States has done more rocket attacks on Mexico from domestic soil than any other country.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
So there they are. The 1926 Big Mac dump truck and the X-17. You know, that truck was state-of-the-art when it came out.
Yes, it was.
Bill said that the X-17 was launched from Cape Canaveral, launch pad 9.
Probably. They said it came down at Patrick, so it probably wasn't launched there, which is right next door. All right, you guys carry the show for a minute. I'll be right back. You can get a chance to talk about me behind my back.
Nathan, that's true. The reason that they went out of business was because they had a very limited line and it was kind of focused. And the volume just wasn't there.
So that's the Bulldog kit they were talking about earlier?
No, they were talking. Well, yeah, that's the dump truck they were talking about earlier. They were asking about.
Interesting. They chose that the final drive would be a chain and sprocket.
Chain. Yep. Well, back in the day, that's way back when. That's how some of the trucks worked.
They couldn't get the transmission to go or the drive shaft to go all the way back to the rear axle?
They didn't have the technology figured out, and they didn't have the metallurgy back then to make it work.
Oh.
Not sure about when this Bulldog will be out, good guys, but it will be out. What happened to their molds? Nathan, we do not know what happened to their molds. Somebody would have to acquire them, and I don't think there's been any back and forth between Atlantis and them, so I really can't give you a good answer on that.
Are they even talking?
I mean, they were no, they were very good kits too. They made really nice kits.
Well, the picture looks like it's pretty good.
Yeah, no differential now.
And no solid shot.
No. And yeah, the torque would overpower the metals of the day, which is why they went to chain drive.
Oh.
Was that Horizon you talking about the one that makes the models of the missiles and the rockets?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame because they sent me 3 of them as a gift just to get my opinion on them. That's the first time. Other one, Atlanta sent me some stuff thanks to you, but I gave them a bunch of feedback. We talked about them on here, and I'll tell you right now, they're some of the best model rocket kits you can find. And I'm sorry they went out of business. That's also why I would never go in the model business, is they did exactly the kind of thing I thought that I would do if I got in the model business. And they're kind of the Williams brothers of rockets, that they have all the information. You can do different versions. They give you several, different nose cones and options in each kit. It was really, really good models. And it's a shame they just, like you said, I think they were just a little too specialized. Well, that's sad because they really did some nice work.
Celebrating the MPC kit, that would be round 2. They own MPC and they own the MPC molds. So I couldn't answer that.
I have a suspicion, and it's just a suspicion, that the someone like round 2 is going to end up with their molds.
Or Mobius.
Now, is round 2 in Australia?
No.
They just use the kangaroo as their logo.
They're in South Bend, Indiana.
So yeah, you said Tom Lowe. You said Tom Lowe is out of the business now. He sold out and moved out, and so someone else is running him. But the people that they
sold out to an investment company.
Yeah, and they're kind of trying to dominate the industry, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're making offers to buy everybody out.
Yeah, but the boys at Atlantis told them no, thank you, no.
They told them no. Super 7 told them no. A couple other companies told them no because they view it as a laugh. All they're trying to do is buy shelf space. The more shelf space they have, the less competitors they have. And they keep everybody else off the shelf.
To me, this seems like a faulty logic just because there's not that many hobby shops left to be fighting over shelf space. I mean, them and Hobby Lobby, who else are you going to argue with about it?
Yeah, because if you look at Hobby Lobby, they pretty much, I'd say they have 60% of the SKUs in Hobby Lobby. And then you have Revell, and then you have all the Gundam stuff.
Yeah, and that's where the money's at. That's a Gundam.
So to buy out other companies that aren't there is, all you're doing is you're consolidating these lines under one vendor to all the distributors that are left.
To answer Stuart's question, I think Wingnut Wings, I believe their proposed Lancaster mold went to border models. I don't know what happened to the rest of them. They are some fine kits. You have any idea where the other Wingnut Wings were? I mean, Peter Jackson may still have them.
See, this is the problem, is that when a company goes out of business because they financially can't make it, other companies that are potential companies to purchase them, well, they look at what did they do? And then they look at what's the investment to do the amount of business that they did with who they do it with. And to some companies, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And that's why some of these molds just kind of, float around in oblivion. And then they wind up over in China and some Chinese company does it.
Yeah. Nathan, that was Sir Peter Jackson is the billionaire who started Wingnut Wings, and he does love World War I aircraft and everything else about the First World War. I don't know if he's actually a billionaire. I think he's worth more like $500 million or $750 million, but it's not like he's worrying about where his lunch money's coming from. They may be parting them out, but the failure.
See, the biggest thing today is the ones that are coming out with the most new things because they make the most molds are the Chinese companies. Yeah. Because if you watch the video about Trumpeter, I mean, they have a room that must have 75 CNC machines that are just cutting molds.
No, and he got $10 an hour slave labor,
they have thousands of molds. I mean, they have a ridiculous mold bank. Now, the tariffs are going to even out a lot of that advantage. But the problem is, how many companies make their stuff here? It's only one, which is Atlantis. And they've just acquired additional space and bought some additional molding machines. Aurora, they make the stuff in Poland and some stuff in China. And Round 2 makes all their stuff in China. And the other smaller companies, they make their stuff here.
Now,
so the ones that make it here, like Atlantis, have a big advantage because whatever the tariff is, it's not factored into the price of their kit.
Bill Campbell's, Bill Campbell was talking about the guy who screwed Peter Jackson, put him out of his plane business. That guy actually was, he not only made model airplanes, he also made replica real airplanes. And I mean, Kermit Weeks has got, I think, an Albatross. I mean, they're extremely authentic. And they're, God, $750,000 each or something, because they're handmade. Anyway, the guy who was in charge of his old airplane shop apparently was basically a long con man. He got caught embezzling, and he'd really put the screws to Jackson and run up millions in debt and everything. And he'd done a whole bunch of shady stuff. I think he actually went to prison for it. But when it was all said and done, Jackson just was so jaded, he got out of the business. And when he got out of that business, he got out of Wingnut Wings as well. And a lot of people talk about, well, he's got so much money, how much did it really hurt? Well, don't confuse having a net worth with having a lot of money. That doesn't mean he has a lot of liquid cash. That stuff's probably all invested. He owns land, things like that. So when this thing lost 7-8 digit figures, he had to shut it down and get out from under it. It was a real tragedy, because he was the only guy in the world really doing that. And I would, with me, it'd be the Fokker D7 or the SE5A, but I love the idea of 100% full scale, very authentic World War I airplanes being made new. I just like that.
What most people don't understand is, when you look at the capital investment for a mold to make a kit to bring it to market, and then you look at how many you actually sell, and the margins are thin, it takes you a long time to make a significant amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the money doesn't really roll in until you've paid off everything. All the debts are gone, and now you're basically printing them for free, or cost of styrofoam.
Back in the 50s and 60s, and even in the 70s, a million run kit was not out of the question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you get 30,000 out of a kit for an initial run, that's a lot. Because most runs are 10, 20,000 to start, and it takes you a while to get rid of that. It's not like it was in the old days. The prices are higher.
I think the Aurora Godzilla, the Aurora Frankenstein, and the Monogram Red Baron, I think they each sold over 3 million.
Right. All the Monogram Snoopy kits.
Mm-hmm.
They were, each one was over 1 million. Each one did over 1 million. Now, when they were repopped a couple of years ago by Atlantis, because I was behind them doing that, did like 40, 50,000. Big difference.
Hey, Frank. Well, Frank just got here, and it's 9 o'clock. So,
a little late, Frank.
Well, Frank, I hope the car show was good.
But he made it into the lifeboat, and that's all that matters.
And yes, Nathan, it is a dying market because your customer is a dying breed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the young kids are not into it like they were in our day.
But this is nothing new.
We're the result of that, and there's less and less places to buy them every month.
I am sure that our grandparents probably were the first generation that never had to buy a saddle. There was a time when the town blacksmith, was probably one of the wealthier guys, and you know, every young man wanted to buy a nice saddle for his horse, and then our grandparents or maybe great-grandparents were the first ones. So I'm going to get one of them motorized contraptions, one of them horseless carriages. Night, Trey. Happy Father's Day.
Night, Trey.
So,
Night, Brian.
Anyway, you know, so it's just, and 60 years from now, our kids and grandkids will be going, these young whippersnappers, when I wanted a video game, I had to order it online and play it with my thumbs. I didn't just jack in, you know, with a jack behind my head and join the Matrix. You know?
Yeah.
Times change, brother.
Yes, it does.
So we build models of airplanes. Our great-great-grandkids will probably jack into the Matrix and think they're flying a real Spitfire. So the TV repairman. Oh, God, yes. I remember the TV. Hell, I remember the milkman.
Yeah.
I almost became a TV repairman.
I thought you were going to say you were going to become a milkman.
When somebody told me it was cheaper to buy a new TV, I remember I was in college.
Yeah,
My TV got hit by lightning, and it was still okay. It was on the last day of warranty, so they covered it. He goes, you know, you can replace this. You know, he goes, the repair would be $400, would be $200. He goes, you know, you can buy a new one of these for $180. I was like, really? And just, you know, when it happened fast. Well, all right, guys. Boy, that time went quick. I want to thank everybody for your patience, putting up with me, coming out and joining us tonight. So I'll let everybody say tonight. Next week's our 200th show. I'll figure out what I'm going to do. Maybe I will go to Pam's Con and do it from Trey's house.
Or torture Ian.
Or torture Ian. Might do it at Ian's too. So, well, all right, guys. I want to thank everybody coming out. Ken, Steve, I'll let you say your nighty nights, and then we'll let the good people go.
And?
Oh, well, I was working up to it. Just give me a second. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you showing up. Believe it or not, we read all of the comments. Some of them go by pretty fast. It's hard to catch up. Thank you for the comments. It's great that you guys interact with us so much. We really appreciate that. We hope you all have a great Father's Day tomorrow, and see you next week. Who knows what Max is going to come up with.
Don't give me too much credit.
I'm sure it'll be entertaining, whatever it is.
Hey, Andy says a parade. How about that? We'll have a parade.
Yeah, I don't march so much anymore.
In front of Ian's store, you know.
All three of us.
Yeah.
They'll probably think it's a protest.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for coming out. We appreciate you interacting with us and telling us what you think. And, you know, we kind of hope that, you know, we give you a little bit more impetus during the week after this call to go in that stash and pull out another box and keep building. Have a great Father's Day to all you dads out there, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week, and thanks for coming out.
Guys, thanks for joining us. Take care of yourself. Happy Father's Day. And as always, model on.
Bits and pieces scattered on the floor, glue stuck to fingers, can't take no more. Searching for quiet, the world's too loud. Need a space where I ain't part of the crowd. Paintbrush trembles, can't keep it straight. Fumbling parts while the clock runs late. Dreaming of battleships, castles, and skies, but I can't focus with all these cries. Give me a room where the noise don't go, where the door shuts tight and the thoughts can flow. Just me and my models under dim lit glow, a place of my own where the time moves slow. hands are steady when the world's at bay. Tiny details come alive in the clay, but the outside's knocking, pounding the wall. I can't create when they're screaming down the hall. I don't need much, just a desk and a light, a little calm to build the night. Tanks and towers taking shape in my mind, but the peace I need is so hard to find. Give me a room where the noise don't go, where the door shuts tight and the thoughts can flow. Just me and my models under dim lit glow, a place of my own where the time moves slow.
Stick your side up, ain't sticking at all. Corners keep curling, makes me wanna brawl. Press it down hard and pops back in my face. Decal rebellion all over the place. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Fighting these stickers is making me sick. Smooth it real slow, slap it on quick. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Peeling back paper with all my might. Static clings wrong, nothing feels right. Tried to be patient, but I'm losing my cool. These stubborn stick is breaking all the rules. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Fighting these stickers is making me sick. Smooth it real slow, slap it on quick. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Head to your heat, but the bubbles still show. Fingers keep sliding, man, I just don't know. Tried soapy water, still a crooked disgrace. These little monsters laughing in my face. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Fighting these stickers is making me sick. Smooth it real slow, slap it on quick. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick. Decals won't lay down, they just won't stick.